Talk with Prima on this great Monday. We're here with a special guest. I hope I pronounced his name right. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. I'm sorry we're having some technical difficulties today, but as we always say, we cannot get upset about things we have no control over. So I'm excited about today's interview. We have on a special guest by the name of Adey. That's not his entire name. I'll let him share that with you guys, but he's a pro football player in Japan for the X League. And I'm excited to dig in and see how it is over there in Japan. Was it a culture shock and all that good stuff? Because I know we may have some individuals that want to leap out on faith and might be a little scared to do so. So let's all hear from Adey. Hello, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Freema, unmute.
Hey, Freema, thank you for having me.
Freema, unmute.
Hey, Freema, I think you are muted.
Okay, Adey. How you doing? Everybody, welcome to Let's Set the Talk with Freema. This is Al-Rilwan, executive producer. I'm taking over Freema for real quick so she get her technical difficulties good. Freema, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Was I not on just now?
Yes, you was. But go ahead. Have at it.
I don't know what's going on today.
You're good. You're good. We can hear you. I can hear you.
Freema, go ahead and talk.
I can hear you.
Okay, so I do apologize about that. I don't even know if I was on, if you could see me just now, but it went totally black on my end. So I do apologize about that. So Adey, I don't know if Alan jumped in and y'all started interviewing, but tell us a little about yourself for the ones that may not know who you are.
Thank you so much, Freema and Alan. I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of your guests. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you're watching from. My full name is Al-Rilwan Adeyemi. So the Adey comes from the first three letters of my last name. I am from Los Angeles, California. Originally by the way of Japan, but originally by the way of Nigeria. My parents are Nigerian, And so I spent a few years, a few of my young years in Nigeria, and then I moved to the United States when I was in elementary school. So that was a bit of a culture shock in itself, and I'm sure we will talk about how Japan was another culture shock in my life. Um, but I hope that I look forward to the interview. I've been in Japan for 9 years now. It has been quite the experience. I have done everything that there is to do in Japan. I've had a lot of experiences. My experiences have ranged from watching sumo practices, to eating at the best sushi restaurant in Japan, to just meeting different people in different walks of life, from arts, politics, entertainment, and fashion. Japan's really big into fashion, and we've had the opportunity to be able to meet people in that industry. So I'm super excited for the interview, and hopefully I can share some of my Japanese experience with you guys, and hopefully we'll have some questions at the end as well.
I listen. I just got back in. I do apologize. This is horrible, and I know it's something we have no control over. But this is really testing me to work well under pressure, I must say. Woo. So I apologize about that. Okay, so I know you gave us a little background on you. As far as being in Japan, coming from the U.S., going into Japan, was this a culture shock for you? Is this something that you were already used to? I'm sorry if you mentioned it and I missed it, but if you don't mind
No,
reiterating.
no, no. I was just talking about it. When I think it's a culture shock. It can be a bit of a culture shock, but the one thing that you have to get used to is when you are, the only black kid in your class. It's very similar to moving to another country, in that you have to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And I know we're having some technical difficulties right now, but that's also part of life. When you live in a foreign country, things aren't always going to go the way that you had planned it. Things aren't always going to go according to plans. So you have to be able to move and adapt and adjust. The only thing, I think it was Albert Einstein that said it, that the only thing constant in life is change. So when you are in an environment like Japan, and you understand that the only thing constant in life is change, you have to be willing to adapt to your new environments. You have to be willing to adapt to the food. You have to be willing to adapt to the culture. And I think that's something that that my Japanese experience has taught me. And just living over in Japan for 9 years, you get a feel for how different people do different things. So that's a bit of but so it wasn't, to answer the question fully. It wasn't as much of a culture shock as you would think it is. There's certain things that make the experiences better. Japan has Costco. Japan has the McDonald's, the Burger
Yeah,
Kings, the Chick-fil-A. Not Chick-fil-A, but the chicken sandwich shops and things of that nature. So there's a lot of similarities
that's right.
when you move to Japan. So it's not like you're completely abandoning everything that you've known and that you've grown up with.
That's right.
So the one thing that you have to do when you get to Japan is find the things that you are familiar with, and then that will help you in your familiarity, in your kind of comfort level.
Mhm.
Those familiar things will help you in your comfort level until you start to branch out and really get a feel for what the country is and how the people operate. So,
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I remember, man, Audie and me, I remember going over there and stuff like that. My
yeah.
first years of like 2003 to 2006, and then I left and then came back, and it seemed like I was back on beat. They don't skip a beat over there.
Mm-mm.
They're real friendly. They're
Mm.
always on the move.
Always.
Always on the move. Very, very nice and
Mm-hmm.
very, very cultured. And you
Mm-hmm.
remember, like, very safe. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know this recently had an incident, but that's
Yeah,
very
that's
surprising.
rare. That's rare.
Very rare. You know that,
That's
right?
rare.
Yeah.
And that shocks that, I was telling I think it was my father that I was telling that something like that is gonna scar Japanese people and Japanese culture for decades to come. Like
Exactly.
that never happens in Japan.
Yeah.
And especially to a beloved beloved politician as former Prime Minister Abe.
Exactly.
So that was shocking for Japanese people. That was shocking for his friends abroad, and it was just a whole shocking situation.
Most definitely.
So,
most definitely. All right, so yeah, so let's go back, man. Let's go back to coming from Nigeria, coming in the States, that culture shock for you, but also, you know, your college stint. I want to go in your college stint at University of San Diego, and then going into the training camps, because you have a unique story. That I want people to hear, because your story, like, you're a person that, you know, when you say you're gonna do something, or you say that, hey, look, you're gonna support this, or you're gonna stand by it, you'll do it, because your story, man. I remember Inside Sports Japan did a story on you, man, and I didn't know none of this, and I'm like, wow. So I want you to just dig into that if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of my my makeup, a lot of my morals, a lot of my guidance certainly comes from a mixture of culture, religion, family tradition, and a little bit of kind of where I come from. You know, so in the culture that I come from, and in the religion that we practice, you know, when you say that you are going to do something as a promise, like, your word is your bond. So regardless of you know, feelings may change, situations may change, but you know what? You should have thought of feelings and situations before you made the decision and you made the promise. Now, if it's a life and death situation to where you have to change that promise, then it is what it is. But if things are in your control and you can keep your word and you can keep your bond, you know, honor that, and silver linings and better days are ahead, regardless of what that may mean in the current situation. You know, so just going back to going back to Nigeria, like I said a little earlier that I came to the States when I was 10. You know, my parents immigrated. My dad has lived in the States for what seems like 40 plus years now. And so he's been in America since the 1980s. But my mother didn't come to the States until 94. Well, I was born in 1990. So there was a 4-year stint there where, you know, my mother and I lived in Nigeria. And then my parents, you know, so we had the choice, because I was born to an American citizen. I was automatically an American citizen, kind of similar to the way that your kids are. Your kids were probably born in a foreign country because of what you do. So that was kind of a similar situation for me. So my parents decided to leave me in Nigeria, and my mom came to the States. So I lived with aunts, uncles, grandparents, and you know, so I got an experience away from my immediate family that was very unique. You know, so in the sense that I was living with aunts and uncles, and I was going to school with their kids. And then, you know, 3 months into that schooling, I would have to move. So I was going from city to village, village to city. You know, in the village, it's everything that National Geographics tell you, right? You live under $1 a day. It's, you know, you live in, you know, less modern accommodations. But in the cities, you're talking the life of, say, you know, some of the Afro beat stars, right? So imagine how a Burna Boy, or imagine how a Davido, or imagine how a Wizkid would live. Those are the type of situations that we were living in. One of my uncles was a politician, so I went to private school with his kids when I was in the city. One of my uncles was a chemistry teacher, so I went to a military school when I was living with him. You know, so I've gotten the chance to experience a little bit of everything growing up, and I'm very thankful for that upbringing. Now, with my parents not being there, you know, one of the things that I learned how to do from a very young age was to make friends. You know, and making friends for me came through sports. So it was, you know, so making a friend for me was as easy as, can you play? So that's how I developed, you know, a lot of the skills that I still possess today, in terms of making friends instead of communication, and things of that nature. So and then transitioning to the States, coming from that culture, Nigeria to the States. One of the biggest culture shock is that in a culture like Nigeria, very similar to Japan, people call you by your last name. So hence why people still call me Adey today and not my first name. Because when I was in Nigeria, people would call you, and last name is Adeyemi, so people call you Adeyemi, Adeyemi, Adeyemi. And then in Japan, same thing, Adeyemi-san, Adeyemi-san. So the Adey is just a short version of that, right? So when I came to America, it shocked me that people would call me like my first name, and I was like, "Why are you calling me my first name?" And like, no, in America we call people by their first names, not their family name. And I was like, okay, like that's how they do things in America. I'm okay with that,
That's
you
right.
know. But I also realized that, you know, calling people by their first names, they could feel a sense of there's positives and there's negatives to it. The positive side of that is that they feel a sense of individualism, so they feel like they're their own self, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the negative sides to it is they don't. Part of feeling a sense of individualism is that you don't feel a sense of community or you don't feel a sense of history. So when someone doesn't call you by your last name, you feel less accountable. Whereas, you know, if someone calls you by your last name, that's not only your last name, that's your father's last name, that's your mother's last name, those are your siblings' last name. You
That's
know,
right.
so every time someone says that name, it automatically sends up a buzzer in your head that like this is not only mine, I'm sharing it with however many people are in your family. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a sense of not acting stupid or not doing anything that would embarrass your family with that culture. Uh, you know, but I enjoyed my time. Everywhere that I've lived in my life has come at a perfect time. There is people ask me where is the best place you've ever lived, and I said that the best place I've ever lived is the place that I lived during that time because it helped me develop as a person, as an athlete, and you know, as the man that I am today. You know, so you know,
Yeah.
I was when I moved in with my parents when I was 10 years old. I grew up in Southern California, the Santa Monica area. So
Yeah.
you know, we went to I went to a pretty good schools. So
Okay.
I went to good elementary school, good middle school, and good high schools. And I got to make lifelong friends
Mm-hmm.
at those schools. And then growing up, I played every sport, man. I played tennis. In Nigeria, I played a ton of soccer. We played some cricket because Nigeria was a British colony at some point.
That's right.
You know, so that we played a lot of cricket growing up, a lot of table tennis. You know, a lot of soccer, man. Like I remember
Nice.
when I first got to the States, I was so good at soccer they were calling me Freddie Adu. You know, yeah, I
I
know,
know.
right?
Yeah, I know who that is.
I know. I was
Yeah.
like the first prodigy, right? So I was they were
Yeah.
like Freddie Adu, Freddie Adu, Freddie Adu, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. But then I ended up, you know, going the American football route, which is where we are today.
That's
Um,
right.
but but yeah, I mean, it was amazing growing up there. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Mm-hmm.
It helped me develop. And I remember when I came to the States, I had an accent. You can
Mm-hmm.
obviously you can no longer tell today, but the my teacher would always tell me the best writers and the best speakers work for the newspaper.
That's right.
So he said, if you want to develop, you know, if you want to improve and develop your writing and reading and speaking skills, you have to read the newspaper. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
that's how I developed my reading, writing, and speaking skills, as well as you know presentation skills came from programs like Toastmasters and certain things like that.
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
and then finishing high school, went off to the University of San Diego,
That's right.
where you know where I played football for 4 years, and again made a ton of lifelong friends there. A
That's
lot of
right.
them I still keep in touch with today. And you know played football there. Ended my career as the career leader in interception.
Yeah.
From day one to the last day there, I was a starter.
Yeah.
I was one of the best players on the field. I was close to being freshman All American. I was you know all league many times.
Yeah.
San Diego Hall of Champion, Athlete of the Month. I mean, I remember that ceremony. Like the professional athlete that was being honored on that day was LT. So I remember my table being
Cool.
next to Ladania Tomlinson's
Damian.
table.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
and
Oh
I
wow. Yeah.
remember like
Yeah.
I remember because he was with the Chargers at the time. So I remember like seeing
Mhm.
him and be like, he's not very tall,
No, he's not
but
tall. Yeah.
his back is very wide. Like his like I was like that is I was like his
Squats.
back, I was like he is a wide human being.
Yes.
You know, so like seeing a professional athlete like that in flesh for the first time, that was you know, that was quite different. That was a good experience though. And then
Yeah.
during the lockout season, which is my senior year, a lot of the Chargers athletes would work out at our facility. So then
Hmm.
that's when you got to see like Philip Rivers and Antonio Gates and all those guys on a regular. You know,
That's right.
we got to see them very regularly. They would come in our gym, use our weight room and things like that.
That's what's up. That's
You
what's
know,
up.
so then yeah, you know, I had a few opportunities to work out for a couple teams. I worked out for the
Mhm.
Giants the first year coming out.
Yep.
But going into that workout, I realized that it would be an uphill battle making that team, because that was the team that just won the Super Bowl. The second Super Bowl when they beat, the second Super Bowl. So on that team, I think they had the corners on that roster were like Aaron Ross from Texas,
Yep.
Baby Cromartie. So they had 6 or 7 corners that were legit guys, So I realized that, if I was to make the team, my position would be on special teams and things of that nature. But that didn't, I did okay during the camp, but it didn't come out with the results that we had anticipated. So I ended, that year, I kept waiting for someone to call, and the call never came. So then the next year I had to work out with the Lions. And it was also during that time that I met a few coaches from Japan, and again, my intentions were never to go play football in Japan. That was never on my mind, because again, I didn't even know that Japan had football, right?
Nobody knew. Yeah.
A bunch of Asians running around, hitting each other. That was very foreign. But I got to meet them, and they're like, yeah, like, we'll bring you to Japan for spring break. All we need is just 1 or 2 practices with you and see how you move. And I was like, yeah, I work out on my own every day. Like, you're going to fly me out, I could do that for you. No problem.
That's right.
It was just being like an extended workout. And then I went and worked out for the Lions as well. And I had a real good showing. And at the end of it, they're like, look, like, we don't have a spot right now, but we'll call you if someone goes down. And I was like, okay, that's what the Giants said last year. So I had a decision in my hand, because now Japan had offered me a spot after the spring break that I spent in Japan. They were like, look, you have until July to make your decision. Well, NFL training camp doesn't open until the last week of July. Japan needed a decision in the middle of July. So middle of July, kind of went back and forth, try to push it as late as I can. And then I was like, all right, like, I don't know if the Lions are ever going to call, so I'm going to go to Japan and play 6 months. And that way I can't go 2 years without playing football. That's a big no-no.
Yep.
So decided to go to Japan, played, and then 10 or 13 days after I got to Japan, around my birthday, actually, the Lions called and like, hey, like, we have a spot that just opened up. Are you in shape? Like, we need, let's come in, we'll work you out. And then, like, if you're in shape and you're good to go, like, we'll get you on the practice field that same day. And I'm like, oh, like, I'm sitting in a bed in Tokyo, and they were like, you're doing what? And they were like, you're doing what? And I was like, yeah, I'm sitting in the bed in Tokyo. And they're like, okay, like, and again, you say the NFL is not an entity that you can say no to.
That's right.
So the minute that you say no to the NFL, those opportunities kind of go by the wayside. So I understood the decision that I was making in that moment. But I could have broken my contract in Japan, but
Of course.
But again, they had already counted me as part of their roster, and they committed to me, and it was one of their first experience with Black American players.
That's right.
So I didn't want to. So again, I'm thinking of myself. I'm thinking of culture. I'm thinking of us as a people, because what message is that going to send if I sign a contract today and I break it tomorrow, and I'm leaving them because they can't bring in another guy, because once you report your roster in July, that's the roster you have until the end of the season. So I knew that I would be doing them a disservice if I left. So I called the Lions. I was like, hey, this is where I am. Like, if the opportunity is still open in January when the season's over, and I'd love to revisit it. And I don't even think they said thank you. They just hung up the phone and called the next guy.
Of course,
because that's the way the NFL works. So that's how I ended up in Japan in 6 months. Eventually turned into 9 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So I know, yeah, that story is awesome, man. To tell young, people, especially like college athletes, hey, look, got an opportunity, be a man of your word, and look what it took you 9 years, and you like a god over there. They love you. But but I want to go into like your career in Japan and the team FUJITSU Frontiers and all, and I know a lot of the players, and the coaches and stuff like that, the coach and stuff over there. But man, before we go there, man, we're gonna go to commercial break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back. But yeah, just answer that when we get back off the commercial break.
All right.
Hi, I'm Christy Buss. I'm family member of the world champion Los Angeles Lakers. I'm a dancer, choreographer. I've traveled around the world and choreographed for daytime television, Days of Our Lives and Passions. I was a Ram cheerleader, a flipper dancer, and now I'm taking that world champion Los Angeles Lakers mentality, and I've created a world champion skincare line called Hito. And Hito is driven from the word hedonism, which is self-love, self-pleasure, self-care. And we want you to understand that we want a relationship with your skin. And we want it to be your other significant other. And take Hito into a new level of how you take care of your skin. So come join me in learning about our amazing brand called Hito.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to Let's Sit to Talk with Freeman. I'm Al-Rilwan. I'm the executive producer. Try to get Freeman on today, man, but we having some difficulties and stuff like that. So you know how technology goes. But hey, shout out to Christy Buss, member of the Buss family of the Los Angeles Lakers. www.hedo.co. Go and get those products. It's real good. They're natural. From the skincare Hito, come from the word Hitoism. Also, shout out to the Investor Show, Prince Dykes, my guy. Also, shout out to Mr. Banky Pound, 33 years in prison, going for that 100K on YouTube, already at like 63K. So shout out to Banky Pound, always shouting our platform and stuff out, or things of that nature. So also shout out to Brooklyn Restaurant and Lounge in Orangeburg, South Carolina. They give Freeman the opportunity to do her panels and things of that nature there on every Sunday. You know, she's been on vacation, she's been out the line, but I'm sure that she's going to be starting those panels up again. So all the sponsors, thank you so much. And let's get back, Adey. So let's talk about your career in Japan, the team FUJITSU Frontiers, and how's that going?
Yeah, you know, when we first got to it's been quite a unique experience because we had an opportunity to do something that no one had ever done before, which is to really change a culture. Now, if you understand Japan and Japanese society, they are a slow moving people when it comes to changing things. They have the best technology in the world,
Yeah.
perhaps even slightly better when it comes to convenience than the States. But they are a slow adapter nation, and they are a conformity and uniform society, which means that if a decision needs to be made, 10 people need to agree before they can move forward.
That's
It's not a top down approach like the States where the CEO dictates and everybody kind of filters. In Japan, it's the CEO asks, you know, the CFO and other people, and you know, so it's decisions by group.
That's right.
You know, so for us going into Fujitsu situation, we were brought into a team that had regular season success, but had never won a championship. They had gone to the championship game, I believe, 5 times, and they had placed second every single time. They had never won. So the opportunity to come in and help them capture their first championship was huge. Compare that to a team that had won, another one of those teams, and because they had won, they had their culture set, and because of the winning that they had done, it was really hard for their Americans, the new Americans, when they came in to change their culture when they started losing. Because you know we've won 6 championships in the last 9 seasons, so all the other teams are trying to chase us. They're bringing in new Americans, they're doing this, they're doing that, but it's hard for those Americans to change the culture because the teams that they were coming into had already won, so they were kind of stuck in their ways. When we came in, we had the opportunity to change the way we practice, to change the way we interact with each other, to change the way that to change the way we do things, to change football. And the team, we had a ton of good players, ton of good Japanese players. And just a side note, in Japan, your Americans don't win you championships.
That's right.
Because every team has 4 Americans, so the Americans cancel each other out.
Yep.
It's your Japanese talent and your coaching that wins you championship.
That's right.
And we have, you know, a pretty good recruiting base, but the Japanese talent won't come unless you win. So that's the difference there. That, when you start winning, the talent just start coming.
Got it.
So we needed to quickly change the culture, and some of the Japanese talent that we had, we needed to coach them up to be able to get us to a championship caliber team. So in my first year in Japan, we went to the championship game, and we lost. So that for them was another sixth. That was their sixth second place finish.
Mm.
So then the next year, they decided that they were going to, for the first time in the team's history, allow an American quarterback to come in,
Mm.
and that changed everything. That opened up the field, just the way we did things, the way we practiced. Everything changed. It took our team to an exponentially higher level, and then we ran the table that year, and we captured the first championship. And you could see the tears and the emotions on the faces of the Japanese people, because they
Yeah.
cared so much and they had tried so hard for so long. So that was a blessing in itself. Um, After capturing that championship, the next year we went back to the championship game after dominating the regular season, and we played 3 quarters of really good football. But then we kind of we made a few mistakes, and we did things that were uncharacteristics of us,
Mhm.
and we ended up losing that championship game. And then after that, we put together a string of 4 in a row. So
Yeah.
that's when we went on our 4 in a row stretch, and we were able to do that. So that made 5 championships in 7 years. And in the COVID year, we lost, and then this past season we won. So
Yeah.
that's what makes 6 championships in 9 seasons. And in every single one of those years, we've been to the championship game. So we've given ourselves a chance to win.
Yeah.
If you want to dance, you have to first go to the ballroom. You can't
Exactly.
just sit there and be like, hey, you got to get to the dance to be able to dance.
Yep.
And we've given ourselves to an opportunity to dance every time by getting to the dance. So
Got it.
that's kind of been the history of us and our success. And the one thing that we really harped on is that if you build relationships, the wins will come. So
That's
our
right.
first order of matter was to build relationships with the players, build relationships with the coaches, build relationships with the fans. That way they have a good game experience, and eventually the wins will start to come.
That's
So
right.
that's what we really focused on.
And for the ones who don't know about football in Japan, we know, but please tell them that
Yeah.
it's not a joke over there. Like
Yeah,
they see
yeah,
think about Japanese. Oh my God, he's look. Nah,
yeah,
tell them.
yeah,
Please tell them about the 2 hour, the 4 hour practices, or
yeah,
tell them
yeah,
about like the how they. I call them. I call them. I compare it like you drop something in an ant nest, right?
mm, mm,
And so you
mm,
drop something in there, they all over it, like
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and they perfect the craft.
mm, mm,
They perfect the craft.
mm-hmm,
They would get it down pat until
mm-hmm,
and as a group. So please, like for the
mm-hmm.
viewers, like football, Japan, are like, oh my God, like all we know is CFL and NFL,
Yeah, yeah.
But please, like, describe the situation.
The one thing about football in Japan is that they're very, very passionate about the game.
Mm. Yes.
And when you have passion, like it's gonna lead you a long ways. So the way that they practice, the way that they study, the way that they approach the game, it all comes from a place of love and passion for the game. They The biggest difference between America and Japan is not necessarily skill level; it's instincts.
Mm.
It's that they don't have football instincts because they don't have a football culture.
That's right.
Whereas in America, you grow up playing football, you grow up watching football, you grow up with football all around, so you develop these football instincts. Now football instincts can help develop your talents, but there are a lot of pretty solid players in Japan,
Mm.
because they all grow up not playing football, so
Yep.
they've really developed other skill sets
That's
that
right.
make them that make them really good football players.
Exactly.
So the ones that play baseball have really good tracking ability and really good hand-eye coordination.
That's right.
The ones that have played soccer have really good footwork, and they have stamina and endurance for days.
That's right.
The ones that have done other things, they bring those skill sets to football, and it makes football really easy for them. They adapt to it very easily.
And when I was over there, we went to a sumo practice.
Of where,
their hand coordination, like linemen's, that's over there.
That translates.
That translates very well, and they quick off their feet and they're fast, and they practice for hours.
They practice. They are if an analogy would best, there's two analogies that I want to give that hopefully best explains Japanese people. The first is that Japanese people believe in their heart of heart, if you practice hard enough, a Japanese person could be better than Michael Jordan. That's what they truly believe in their heart. They believe that if you practice hard enough, you could be better than Michael Jordan. And then the second analogy is Japanese people are a believer in measure 3 times, cut once. So they will do it over and over and over again until they present it to you as done.
That's right.
So if those two analogies can help explain a little bit of what football is like there, I think those two things kind of put it together. So the one thing that part of the American culture that we try to bring to them is that you don't need 4 hours of football practice, because now you are not helping the team, you are not hurting the team, because now players are getting injured, so you're counterbalancing all the positives that you have put in place. So
got it. So that's so what is life after football for Adey? You're doing it. You did 9 years, man. That's a long time, and so to me, I'm 9 years. That's getting towards the end. What's life is going to be? What's your decision going to be after football, and what's your plans?
This is that's a very good question. Because like you said, 9 years, right? So you start to think you are closer to the end than you are from the beginning, unless you're Tom Brady, right?
That's right.
Because
the man's too many of those
22 seasons, 21 seasons, and he is so at 9 years he hasn't even gotten to halfway of his career year. But I am not Tom Brady, and I do not play the quarterback position. I play a position where you run, you twist, you prop, you do all these things that at some point the athleticism is going to go, and you're no longer going to be useful on the field. So for me, it's ever since I got to Japan, it's always looking at outlets and opportunities, whether those opportunities were in the States, whether those opportunities were in Japan, continuing to make connections, both in the business world and in the football world, to give myself, the best chance at whatever I want to do going forward. I think naturally, because I have done football for so long, I would go into coaching initially. Now you don't know if you're going to be a good coach unless you coach.
That's right.
And so initially I would go into coaching with the mindset of I'm going to put my all into this. And if this is my true calling, I am a teacher by nature, but I don't know, teaching and coaching are very similar. But I don't know if coaching football is the teaching that I'm supposed to be doing, or if it's actually like teaching men and teaching young men to be men, or teaching in a capacity where I'm impacting the community. But initially I will go into football coaching and see if that is something that I'm really passionate about, and if it is, then let's go get it. I'll bring the same energy that I did to playing to coaching. So that's kind of the immediate future. And I've also done some things on the side that have allowed me some flexibility, certain financial investments and partnerships with people, and just keeping my toes down and setting some roots. So yeah, that's it. And it was a long answer, but it's still a work in progress if I was to give you a more precise answer.
There you go, man. And you gotta have a long answer because you've been doing a thing for for a long time.
Yeah,
As such
yeah,
as
certainly.
myself too.
Yeah, yeah,
We're doing stuff that we're used to
yeah.
such a long time. So I always tell people when they transitioning to what they're doing, especially in the sports world, military world, whatever
Mhm,
world that you've been doing stuff in a long time, have a
mhm,
plan A, B, and C.
mm.
So, you know, hey, your answer is gonna be long, but that's
Yeah,
good. You see what I'm
yeah,
saying? So,
yeah, 100%.
but yeah, man, but that's good, man. I known you for a couple of years now, man, and you always was a good soul, man. People
Thank
around you, they love you. They
thank you,
always
brother.
like the people you have around you, man. You always bring joy. So I
Thank you. I
see that
appreciate it, brother.
all the time, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, with your culture too and your religion, you take that
Yeah,
pride with stride, man. You even
I appreciate
people
it.
who don't understand it, you teach it. You don't get mad.
Nah, nah.
You sit down,
Yeah,
you talk to them. You're like, hey,
yeah,
this is why I do this,
yeah,
and people are like, oh, okay, and then
yeah,
what they can say, you know what I mean?
yeah.
But
100%.
so man, Audie, we always ask this before we wrap up, man.
Yeah,
The little Audis or the little kids
yeah, yeah.
that don't have that drive
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
don't have that or they have the passion but they're
Mm-hmm.
scared to take that leap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you coming from Nigeria, coming in the States
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
transitioning over, going to
Mm-hmm.
college and transitioning to
Mm-hmm.
Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But what words of encouragement and wisdom do you have for those kids today? Because man, we need it today.
Mm. There is a there was a book that I recently just finished, and the title of the book is called "Motivation is a Myth."
Okay.
And the book alluded to how most people will wait for motivation to start something, and they will wait for motivation to continue to keep them going. So for those kids uh, that are looking for motivation, I would say get out there and start it. Now, start it in a place where you can see an easy win. So start it by introducing yourself to someone that you don't know, because that in itself takes you out of your natural comfort zone. And that is just one step towards moving abroad, taking risks.
That's right.
um, so that's one thing that I would tell them. I was mentioning earlier in my introduction that growing up, a lot of the times being the only black kid in class helped me adapt to Japanese culture,
Yeah.
because now being the only black kid in class and not feeling uncomfortable to raise your hand or to answer questions and do some of to read or to do some of these things helped prepare me for being the only black kid in a 2 mile radius in
Mm.
Japan, and being comfortable with that, and not feeling like an outsider or feeling like an other,
Yeah.
and just being like, no, I belong here. Like I pay Japanese taxes. I do
Exactly.
these things. Like
Yeah.
like I go to the grocery stores like you. So those are some of the things I would tell the kids. Get out of your comfort zone and just reach out to people and introduce yourself and do something that scares you just a little bit. Nothing dangerous, but do something that scares you just a little bit, and that'll help you. And if you like that feeling, then repeat it, and then before you know it, you'll have the courage and the convictions to be able to do things that are ultimately good for you, good for your life, good for your family, and good for your soul. So
I agree with that. Do something that's scary one time
yeah,
and conquer that. I mean, jump. Yeah, like you said, jump that leap of faith, man.
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
like people who first purchase a car, purchase a house.
yeah. Exactly,
It's
exactly.
it's, it's
These are
scary thing. Yeah,
scary. You purchase
yeah,
a house, you're like, how am I going to make 400 payments, right, over 30
exactly,
years, right?
exactly.
Thinking you
Oh,
cannot miss one. You purchase a car, you're like, is this the car that I really want? Like, can I
that's right.
afford it? Insurance, gas, like what if things change?
Mm,
Like it's everything in life like has risk attached. Everything that's good has risk attached to it. When you get
yeah.
married, right?
Yep.
There's the whole idea of like people getting cold feet, right?
That's right.
It's not that they don't love the person that they're gonna marry. It's that they start to get doubts of like, is this really it? Like, is this,
Right.
but again, when you have a process to where you're going to make a decision, get out a piece of paper, get a board, and write things down. Go through your pros and cons and compare and contrast it, and go from there. because that will help you. That will help you make your decision. You don't have to make the decision from an emotional place. You can make it from a logical and a sensible place. So
That's right. Cool, man. Man, this was great. I really enjoyed this conversation. But is there anything else you want to mention, or anything else that you want to mention that we miss, or that you're doing, or anything coming out in an NFT or anything?
No, I appreciate this opportunity to reach out to your audience, and to be able to speak to them. And if any kids are watching this, you can follow me on social media. You can reach out to me for tips, whatever you need. I am still learning, and the one thing that I did is I had pretty good mentors, and I followed some of their blueprint and adjusted it to me and to what I was doing. It's life is not, you are not living life for the first time. You're not the first person that's gone through some of your problems. So reach out to people, talk to people, and they will help you. They will help you through those things, and find good mentors, and and they will help you through some of the things that you are going through. So we are meant to be community people. Humans are a community people. So reach out to your communities. Because they say that a child that doesn't feel, there's an African proverb that says that a child that doesn't feel the warmth of the village will burn it down trying to feel it. So like, you want to get to the child before you want to surround the child and give him warmth before he feels the need to start a fire. And we know that in our communities, especially, those fires can lead to detrimental things for generations. So that's just my message. Reach out to people, find good mentors, and ask questions. So that's it. That's my final message. I really appreciate this, Alan. And when Freeman gets back on, I really appreciate you guys inviting me on. This has been wonderful. And hopefully we can sit down and do this again when you guys are at a billion subscribers, and it's on a whole different level. So
Hey man, I appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy, and I caught you when you're back in the States, back at home. But I'm glad. I appreciate you coming on and stuff like that, man. All the views out there, man. We appreciate y'all coming on and always supporting Let's Sit and Talk with Freema. Like I said, I know Freema has a technical difficulties, and I know she's like, but Freema, I got you. I'm gonna hold you down. I'm trying. I think I did good. I think I did good today. But it just comes with the territory, guys. It's technology, so somebody got to fill in. We just got to fill in off the fly and do what we got to do. That's life.
Exactly.
Hit curves.
Exactly.
But you dodge them or you overcome. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, shout out to everybody out there. Shout out to, like I said again, shout out to Christy Buss with www.hedo.co. That's www.hedo.co. Christy Buss, and she's a member of the Buss family of the Lakers. So, like I said, she has a great skincare line out. www.hedo.co. Go online, support. Very good for your skin. Also, shout out to Brooklyn Restaurant and Lounge in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Thank you. Appreciate it for letting Freema do her platforms and do her panels at that restaurant every Sunday at 4 p.m. Also, shout out to the Investor Show, Prince Dykes, my guy. Y'all go on his YouTube channel, Instagram, and check out his interviews and learn about investing and learn about how to invest. Also, shout out to Mr. Banky Pound. 33 years of prison stories, man. Very, very great guy. Always shouting out our podcast and show. It's at 63, almost 64K on YouTube. Going to 100K, guys. Go on his page and support him. And you will enjoy the stories that he has on this show. But everybody, this is it. Audi, thank you again. Appreciate everybody for coming on. And as Freema said, as we always say on Let's Sip and Talk with Freema, peace and love.
Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day.
All right, man.